Morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution episode where we at 675. Happy Thursday. I hope you all survived the horrid Tuesday and Wednesday without football. I was actually thinking to myself this morning, man, it's good. Oh, it's Thursday. We've got football on tonight. And I'm not like a big football guy. I'm a baseball fan. But I'm like tired of I'm tired of baseball because I'm a fair weather baseball fan, and when the Cubs suck, I just kind of retreat and look forward to football and college basketball. So I'm in that phase right now where it's like, okay, it's the middle of September, the Cubs stink. It's time for football. College basketball is 2 months away. So I've got football as a bridge to college basketball, and then I'll get excited about baseball in January. So and then it all starts over. So I'm thinking it's like, oh, 2 whole days without a football game on. I don't even know who plays tonight. And here's the thing. I won't even watch the game tonight. It's just I like knowing there's a game on. I am looking forward to some college football this weekend. I don't even know what games are on, but I'm looking forward to it. I don't have plans for this weekend, which is nice. I'll be able to get some card stuff done, hopefully finish going through all the Goodwill stuff. And I want to open some more Bowman U football. I have been here and there. I keep finding blaster boxes of Bowman U. Like I was counting on my shelf yesterday. I'm like, oh man, I've opened a ton of these blasters. And then I looked behind because some have been knocked down and they fell behind. There were like 8 blasters that I wasn't counting. So I went through and it's like, okay, I'm down to like 22 blasters or something. And then I was looking for my labels for my thermal label printer. And they were sitting next to a box that had 4 blasters of Bowman U from the last batch I bought. So I did open one this morning. I was waiting for my computer to boot up. I did open a blaster, and I actually, it was a 2-hit box. So I'm at 25 unopened blasters, and I still have 1 hobby box. So I'll open the hobby box this weekend, and then I'll probably do another, 5 blasters or so. So I pulled a Sauce Gardner. I am like I could start a mod Gardner super collection out of Bowman U because I've pulled his orange chrome auto. I've pulled his yellow chrome auto. I think I've pulled a base auto. I have like a fuchsia refractor, and now I have the lava refractor numbered to 100, Ahmad Gardner. He's with the Jets now, the New York Jets. And then also in that box was a insert numbered to 150, Tyler Schaff. I'm not sure where he plays. I'm not familiar with Tyler Schaff, if I'm even pronouncing that right. The Pinks were not anything to write home about. Tyler Van Dyke, Miami Hurricanes. Connor Bazelak, I think he's Wyoming. Derek Stingley, LSU, he's decent. Xavier Worthy, I think I don't know where he's playing. Tanner McKee, quarterback, regular refractor. So that was from this morning's little morning rip this morning. John is with us first in. Good morning, John. Johnny Boy Cards, what is up? Zach and Porter, Terry, Ed, Victor. Cubs sweep the Mets, and I'm talking about football. What the hell's going on in my brain? Let's see. David, good morning. George, what's up? Fall Creek Collectibles, good morning. Terry, talking about Car Dealer Pro. Yes, I'm still having issues. Let's see. Are you still noticing CDP AI problems? I tried 61 2022 tops yesterday afternoon, and it didn't correctly ID any of them. Yes, super frustrating. I'm going to talk about my new scanner because I was excited to try it out, and I am excited to try it out. But the AI on Car Dealer Pro, once again, did not work. In fact, it wasn't 0 of 61. I think I did 100 cards, and I think it only correctly identified like 10. So yeah, those frustrating issues continue. But by the way, I'm going to be on the Collects Twitter Spaces later this morning in 2 hours at 9 a.m. Central. I'll be on Car Dealer Pro, and maybe we'll talk on that because it's been very frustrating. It's been a week now, and I'm still like I'm not making any forward progress because of all the issues with their AI struggles here in the last 7 days now. So I'll touch base. So you can listen to Twitter Spaces later this morning, 9 a.m. It's going to be on the Collects Twitter stream Spaces. So check out Collects, and there should be a link there. Herman's with us. What's up, Herman? Justin, my guy Justin is with us. Good morning. Dan says future topic for standalone video idea: hobby box versus blasters overview. You provided lots of good content in the live streams about this over the months. Yeah, I can touch on that again. And I'll probably do that. It's a good idea for a future topic when, say, like a Topps Archives or even Allen and Ginter. Those are two products that I feel strongly one way or the other. And they differ. One of those products, I love hobby boxes and hate retail blasters. The other product, I hate hobby boxes and love retail blasters. So in those two products, Allen and Ginter scheduled releases later this month. I don't know if that's still the case. I haven't seen it updated. And here's the thing with the release calendar. It depends where you go. Because some of the websites don't update the actual release dates. And Topps is like, I think Topps is emailing out their direct, their like brick and mortar direct customers. I think they're emailing them like every Friday with an updated calendar, and there's still some TBAs. So I'll find out next weekend. Madison Card Show next Saturday. I've got to, I keep getting more and more confirmations on tables. I've got to make sure I have room for all the dealers. So it's going to be bursting at the seams next Saturday, the 24th of September, 125 tables for the Madison Card Show at the Sheraton Hotel, John Nolan Drive, which I expected September, October to be really, really big shoes because I had a lot of regulars that we're taking the summer off. We'll be back in September. So really big show, September 24th, next Saturday, Sheraton Hotel, John Nolan Drive. And then October is the 22nd, which coincides, unfortunately, with the University of Wisconsin homecoming. I don't think there's a lot of direct competition between people at a card show and the Badger game. May have a few losses here and there from a customer standpoint. But it's the traffic on John Nolan Drive that I'm concerned about on October 22nd. November is the 19th, which is the week before Thanksgiving, which I could not secure the Saturday of Thanksgiving because the Sheraton was booked. November 19th is the same weekend as the Chicago Sports Spectacular, so I will lose some of the crowd. I will also lose some of my regular vendors because they'll be in Chicago. And then I did schedule a December show on the 17th, December 17th, the week before Christmas. So those are the dates for the Madison Card Show, Sheraton Hotel, John Nolan Drive. Don't forget, next Saturday, 125 tables. Show runs 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. free admission. Okay, so shilling the Madison Card Show is out of the way. Where are we at? So Dan brings up a great point. Hobby box versus blasters. There are some products that are going to be released here in the near future that I do have strong opinions one way or the other. I was listening back to Hobby Hotline from Tuesday night's overtime episode. And one of the things brought up was hobby boxes or blaster boxes. And it got me thinking, and I think John Newman said, and I can't remember the number he threw out, but I thought it was a little high. The amount of people that have opened a hobby box. So I did a Twitter poll, 206 votes so far, 13 hours left remaining in the poll. Now, when I do a Twitter poll, here's the thing. This is like super unscientific, like the vocabulary I just used. Is vocabulary scientific, though? Anyway, my Twitter audience, guess what they do? Most of my Twitter audience, they're following me because they are like hardcore baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and soccer collectors. So, so I think the results are going to be skewed in what I'm trying to get at. The point I'm trying to make is when I talked about the national and what percent of collectors have ever gone to a national, and I bet it's 1% or less of active collectors. And what I mean by active is somebody who within the last 6 months has bought a product, a card, a blaster box, because there's so many casual collectors that are active. They don't want a hobby box. They wouldn't even know where to order a hobby box, especially if they don't have a local card shop in town. So I think, my results. So have you ever, so not just in the last 6 months, but have you ever opened a hobby box? The results are actually more than I expected. I thought my number, just based on my audience, would be 60%, maybe 65%. It's actually 79% have ever opened a hobby box in the, that's out of 206 voters. So 79 to 21%. It's actually 78.6%, 21.4%. I was a little, I knew my numbers would be higher than probably what the actual numbers are, because my Twitter account's baseball cards. And I think a lot of casual collectors, like I wasn't even on hobby Twitter. I was hardcore in the hobby, but I didn't really get into the community aspect of hobby Twitter until I started the 1 Million Cubs project, like 2007 or 2018, this very late 2017. So let's just call it 2018. But from 2012 to 2018, I would have considered myself a hardcore hobbyist, both buying and selling, trading. But I wasn't involved in hobby Twitter. I spent most of my social media hobby time in Facebook groups. And now it's like I'm in Facebook groups, but I'm not very active. The most active I am in hobby Facebook groups is like taking a screenshot and putting it on Twitter. Like, hey, look at this. This is cool. So I think there's a lot of casual collectors who may be active. And I think maybe my verbiage in that poll question was a little unfair. Like, ever is a long time. It's your entire life. I went from my very first hobby box that I ever opened was in 1991. Upper Deck Football. Thank you, Santa Claus. And I didn't open another box until 1998. Bowman Baseball. Surprise, Bowman. Bowman Baseball, 1998. I got back into the hobby. Thank you, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa, for getting me back into baseball, which led me to collecting cards again, baseball cards again. And I'd make I had my driver's license, I think in the summer of 98, got my driver's license. Me and my friend Seth, who actually was a hockey collector, like the only hockey collector that I think I've probably ever known personally. I'm sure there's been a few stragglers here and there, but Seth, in my small hometown, it's like, hockey? Nobody likes hockey. He was a hockey collector. We would go down every Sunday. We'd drive down, and 16 years old, drive down to the Kelowna, Illinois, and there's a card shop there. I can't remember what it was called, but it was fun. And I would dig through they were probably dime boxes at that time, maybe quarter boxes, pull out the latest Cubs cards. And I remember buying a hobby box, my first ever hobby baseball box. And then from 1998, and again, I'm pretty active off and on in the hobby. I don't think my next hobby box was until 2012, and I think it was Allen and Ginter, which is another favorite of mine. So in a span of 91 to 2012. That's 20 years, give or take. Depending on when I bought those boxes. Call it 20 years. 20 years, 2 to 3 boxes, hobby boxes. And I was pretty involved in the hobby. So maybe I phrased that question in the poll. I probably could have done a better job. Like, have you opened a hobby box in the last, give it a little time, in the last year, in the last 6 months? But I'm still surprised. I'm still surprised at the number 79% have ever opened a hobby box. I'm surprised by that number, even though my audience skews heavily toward collectors. So, and there's all, it's unfortunate. There's all these qualifiers. Well, I don't collect cards, but I've bought a hobby box, or I do collect cards and I haven't opened. I've opened one, but it was 25 years ago. It was 1989 Fleer, looking for that Billy Ripken card. So thank you. And Dan, thank you also for bringing that up. So, cause I totally forgot I ran that poll yesterday. John says I stayed up until 4:30 a.m. watching the Broncos decide to go for a 64-yard field goal. What in the hell was that all about? The Broncos coaching team loved to make me slowly lose it. I wasn't watching the game, but I was reading like Twitter, and it's like Twitter is just up in arms over what happened. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Let's see. Ed says he's still having Card Dealer Pro issues also. Yeah, man. I really hope they can get this buckled down soon, because I'm losing valuable time in getting volume up in my eBay store, which is still flirting with 21,000 active listings. Link, by the way, to my eBay store in the description, so check it out. What did I add yesterday? I think I did 100 cards. Might have been football. I think I'm on a football run just because, well, here it is, football season. So I'm going to be focusing on uploading football cards here in the next couple weeks. Zach and Porter, I made deviled eggs for the Twitter space. Do I need to bring ice too? Hey, thank you. Bring a dish to pass. John says, what's up, John? Is Johnny Evans still playing mediocre defense in England? Low roller scratcher. He makes an appearance. We missed you yesterday. You heard railroad strike this week. How does it affect your eBay store? Actually, overnight they have come to a tentative agreement. So there will not be a railroad strike. It appears. At least that was the news early this morning, that they have avoided the impending strike. So it will not. Even if they did go on strike, I think it would have very little effect on my eBay store. Now there's a trickle down effect, what it could, and I did talk about, so I have a background in transportation. So, while it doesn't directly affect many things, it indirectly, it's kind of like a plane, airplanes. Like if one, I was going to say if one goes down, if a plane, not literally from the sky, goes down, say it has mechanical issues and there's a delay from Orlando to Chicago, that indirectly affects a flight from Chicago to New York. And it's that trickle down. It's that domino effect. One goes down, it's going to put the entire, system in disarray. So that's kind of what the railroad strike, if there would be a strike with, the freight rails, while goods and services across the country, typically are shipped via truckload, the semi trucks on the interstates, there wouldn't be, a lot of like lumber, stuff like that, lower value freight, because freight takes a lot of time. It's not a direct, you jump in a semi, you can drive from Chicago to San Francisco and get that done in a day and a half. But a train, it's going to make multiple stops. It's slower. So that's inexpensive goods, or not time sensitive goods. So a lot of lumber is shipped via rail, other stuff. But how does that impact. Well, if that lumber needs to go, it's like, well, we can't wait this strike out. Now it's got to go on truckload. So now truck A, who's normally doing this run for, I don't know, what's something in competition, cheap freight with lumber, pallets. Pallets are super cheap. So if he's running pallets or dirt, I have more experience with dirt. It's actually mineral enhanced soil. It's actually that was fairly expensive freight. He's moving some of those. He's like, all of a sudden, hey, there's a demand for this lumber and they're paying X amount. So truck A is going to stop doing this normal route and he's going to go ship this lumber. And so that takes truck. And now, my brokerage experience, it's like, well, crap, my regular carrier that does this run is not available. Now I've got to pay another guy and he's $100, $500, whatever the price is, higher. Now all of a sudden that impacts the prices of what you're paying for this good. It's going to take trucks away because there's, you're taking one line of transportation out. So while it doesn't directly affect, and there's a trickle down from that, like I'm not, does it directly affect me if, I don't have a set of rails in my backyard, pulling pallets of paper off, but it could affect how, the paper that you buy at Costco or Walmart or Target, how it's transported, and there could be a delay and all that. So would that trickle down to my eBay store? No. Well, no with a qualifier. Very little. But in supplies and in day-to-day stuff, the general population could see some effects on that. So I'm not trying to downplay it, but there's that. It's a trickle down. Ed says, on the bright side, it has helped me master file exchange, so that's a plus. Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like if you know file exchange, you're gonna know Card Dealer Pro, or you're gonna have a better idea how to use Card Dealer Pro. If you don't know how to use file exchange, you can still use Card Dealer Pro, and it's going to give you a good base. It's like, well, this is what I do with Card Dealer Pro, and if that's taken away, now now I'm forced to use file exchange because Card Dealer Pro is not working accurately. It's like, oh, hey, this is this similar spreadsheet that what I use, or you can actually use a template. By the way, if you're using Card Dealer Pro, and you're not using the AI, you can still use a spreadsheet, use it as a template, and just fill in the required, what you're uploading from Card Dealer Pro. Just save that as like a template. And then you can use that as a regular file exchange spreadsheet and upload, use Image Shack or wherever you're hosting images that works with eBay or Card Dealer Pro. It's just going to take a little more time. You're not utilizing that AI. So Paige and Deanie being in the house. What is up? Good morning to you. Let's see. John's talking to John. Good morning, Cooter. What is up? People of the cardboard. Let's see. Zach and Porter adds in the strike was averted. John says, am I the only one disappointed that Justin is Bo's guy? I think he's led a lot of us on. You're my guy, John. City was dangerously close to signing Evans about 5 years ago. Close call. Mark Hoyle, good morning. Where we at? Oh, I skipped way ahead. Where we at? By the way, if you came here for scanner talk, I'll get to it. I'll get to it eventually. We'll talk scanners today. Dan's in the house. What's up, Dan? Royals 417, good morning to you. Fanatics going to buy the Sheraton on John Nolan Drive. Card Hobbyist, what's up? Oh, yeah, Merry Christmas. I was reminded yesterday by Walmart, it's now Christmas season. They were stocking Christmas stuff already. It is September. It is getting close. Let's see. What was I was watching? Oh, I think I was watching a Simpsons episode last night. I was sorting some of my Goodwill boxes, and there wasn't anything interesting that I wanted to watch. And it's like, oh, there's a marathon on whatever Fox channel. So I had the Simpsons on. It was it was one I've never seen because I loved The Simpsons, like when it first, as a kid, and through the 90s into the early 2000s. And then at like some point I just stopped watching. I still love The Simpsons. I just don't watch it. And there was one on because it was about a Hallmark Christmas movie, The Simpsons. And so it was like a Hallmark executive character, hated Christmas movies, but she was tasked to produce like a summer Christmas movie in the summertime, and it was set in Springfield. And the Simpsons rented out their house as an Airbnb, so she was like staying this producer, and I only watched like half of it, but it's like, oh my God, this is like The Simpsons and Hallmark Christmas movies. This storyline is what I yearn for. Isn't that sad? That sounds really sad. So I love Christmas, so I don't care if they start it in September. I'm all good with it. And I don't understand, and I'm going to probably talk about this again in November. I don't understand why people say it's not even Thanksgiving. Why are we talking about Christmas? It's like, because it's Thanksgiving is just you eat a lot of food. It's not like Christmas is a season. It's not just a day to gorge yourself with turkey and stuffing, mashed potatoes and green beans and casserole that Aunt Ruth brought over that nobody likes. So that I don't get that. Maybe it's because I love Christmas season. I just love the whole season. So, but when I say that, I won't watch Christmas movies until November 1st. It's just this weird thing. And if it's like 70 degrees on November 1st, I won't watch a Christmas movie because it's like, it's not seasonal. So I couldn't live in Florida or Southern California because it's warm. It's got to be cold for me to watch a Christmas movie. I guess I could learn to adapt, but so I watch in October. That's like scary movie time. Watch scary movies in October, and then November 1st, it's Christmas time. And if it's cold, I'm gonna turn on Hallmark. Because I think Hallmark starts their Christmas movies like in mid-October. So we're only a month away from Hallmark Christmas movies. Although they run them in like June and July also. I see Home Alone, like Home Alone's on A&E or whatever channel it is. Like, what the hell? This doesn't make sense. I do have to wait. John says, I've opened 4 hobby boxes this year, 2 Heritage and 2 Platinum Anniversary. Zach and Porter says, I clicked that we didn't open a hobby box on DR's poll 2. John says, if you need to make your statistical analysis, let me know. I know the standard deviation formula off by heart. The hours fly by in my world. That's giving me that's giving me flashbacks to all those math classes and statistics and calculus that that I spent half the day at the tutor's office trying to figure out the formula for standard deviation and all that. Oh, I hated that stuff. Mark has never opened a hobby box. That is surprising ever. Like, I know Mark's not a modern collector, but I'm surprised he's never opened a hobby box. That's surprising to me. Herman says hobby community is what keeps me going. I would agree with that. Like this, I started this video series and here I am, 675 episodes in. I did it because it was the middle of COVID, early COVID, I guess. And I was like, most of my work was done via email and I was working from home. So I was talking to my wife and dog and that was about it. So I'm like, I had bought this Blue Yeti microphone like a year before and like never used it. And I'm like, I should put it to work. And I'm like, I'm just going to go on YouTube and just talk for 15 minutes. And then people started watching and like chatting. And it's like, hey, this is fun. And now here we are. We have a great chat, great community here. And that's what keeps me going. And what I really like about it is it keeps me on a schedule, okay, I've got to be up because I've got to get to work by 7 a.m. because I've got a show to do. So it keeps me honest, keeps me up and doing my thing every morning. Dan says, I asked the same question, but limited it to within the last 3 years, and 60% of respondents said yes. I was surprised it was so high. Yeah, in 3 years, that's I am surprised. But I think in the general, I bet from like an active collector, and again, I'm going to reiterate what I mean by active collector, like a casual collector, like it certainly somebody that's not like consuming a lot of YouTube content, is involved in hobby Twitter, posting in Facebook groups, but just like the casual guy that you see at the card show with his notepad. And Justin, I'm not making fun of your your handwritten set checklist, but just the random guy at the card show with his notebook, and he doesn't know what social media is. But he's an active collector. He's a set builder, but he doesn't build sets by opening hobby boxes. Or the dad that picks up a random blaster on Friday after work for his son. Just an active collector active collectors doesn't mean they're putting videos on YouTube or tweeting, all day about cards. So that's, and I think that the entire population, if somebody has made a purchase, a baseball card, football, trading card purchase, we can throw in Pokemon and the other stuff in there too. A general purchase, whether it's a single, whether it's a box, like a blaster box at Target, because that's, easier to come by than a hobby box. I bet it's like 25%. I bet from like when you take all that into account, because I think a lot of us that are here, that are active on Twitter, active on Facebook, especially on YouTube, like if you're talking about cards on YouTube, you're pretty into the hobby, right? You're pretty into the hobby. But there's so many of us, and I think we take that with we don't really consider that there's people that aren't as obsessed, sounds kind of bad, but aren't as into the hobby as most of us, if not all of us. So there's a lot of casual collectors that like I have friends, they're like, yeah, I was at Target, so I picked up a box. They are contributing financial resources to the hobby, but they're not like posting YouTube videos and tweeting and Facebooking about the hobby, or going out to their local card shop or ordering boxes online. Let's see. Where are we at? George says, my first MLB hobby box was in 2017, if I recall. Terry lived in Kelowna for a short time. Very nice. When did you live there? So there was a card shop there, and it closed in, I think, like 2000. It closed like around the time I was going there. And because I remember there was a kid that was working there. And when I say kid, he was my age. So it might've been a couple years older, but I remember like we would go there like every Sunday or every other Sunday. And it was a great like hangout. It was a big store. It was in, so when you come in, so if you're coming in on Route 6, so this is going to be something that only Terry and I are going to know the references. So if you're coming from Geneseo on Route 6, which is a very nice scenic route, which I grew up on Route 6 in Anawan, right? Literally. Well, not on top of it, but right next to it. If you're coming in from Geneseo on Route 6, you take the right. And I don't know what that road is called, but if you take Route 6 all the way, you get into Coal Valley. But if you take the right on Route 6 to go into Kelowna, it's right there on that road. Like you cross the bridge. I don't know if it's not the Green River. It's, I don't know, a creek maybe. You cross that, you get into town, and on the right-hand side, might've been right around the Dairy Queen. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've been in that area. But on the right-hand side, there was like a mini mall, and there was a card shop there. I can't remember what it was called. But this was the late 90s. So this would have been like I bought a 98 Bowman hobby box. So it was 98 for sure. And that's when I got my driver's license. So that's probably when I started going there. It was 1998 and probably into 1999. And I think it closed shortly after, like maybe into 2000. And I remember the kid that was working there mentioned, he's like, yeah, we do a lot of sales on eBay, and we do more sales on eBay than in the shop. And I'm like, what? This is 1999. So, and I mean, I was on eBay. I was doing a lot of buying and selling on eBay, but it certainly wasn't what eBay became. So it was still surprising that it's like, whoa, you're selling more on the internet, on the World Wide Web, on the information superhighway than you are in the store. And this is in 1999. And so shortly after, the card shop closed. Can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it was on that highway, right in like the center of Kelowna. Kelowna along the Rock and Green Rivers. Yes, and in fact, it used to be there were two separate like villages. It was Kelowna Green Rock. And then there was and this was like pretty controversial back in the 90s, I believe. They decided, and I think it went to a vote. Like, I think citizens of the communities, which it was basically one city, they voted to rename it. And it was like, and I think it was just Kelowna or Green Rock. Like, it's going to be considered from this point on as either Kelowna or Green Rock. And they voted Kelowna. Yeah, so I think it was just, it wasn't, I don't think it was either. It certainly wasn't the Rock River that you crossed to get into Kelowna. It was just I think it was just a little creek. And the Green River was a little north. And I'm trying to think, the Rock River flowed from north to south because it goes through like Rockford and then winds down around Prophetstown and then cuts across to the Mississippi River. The Green River is kind of like just straight east and west. I can't remember how far north the Green River was from Kelowna though. But the little stream, I think it was just a creek. I'll have to look at a Google map. George says, my last hobby box was January of this year. Bought those few retail boxes a few weeks ago. Card Hobbyist says, I haven't opened a hobby box for myself in about 10 years. Twitter is always up in arms about something. That is true. Ted is here. Ted from Card Dealer Pro and Collects. Good morning. We will definitely talk about all these issues on Twitter Spaces. Excellent. Thank you. So yes, we'll be on Twitter Spaces 9 a.m. this morning, talking about the good and unfortunately the bad with some of the issues that have arisen. Paige and Deanie Bean says hobby boxes are $432,987 per box. Cooter says it might be interesting to see how many intend to open any 2023 wax, or whether people intend to open more or less wax next year. That is interesting. I never thought about that. So I've opened less wax in 2022 because, despite a wall of Bowman U football behind me, because like the releases that I like haven't come out yet. Allen and Ginter, which I probably wouldn't buy any, maybe pick up a blaster or two. Pro Debut, which does come out the end of this month in 2 weeks. So I'm looking to pick up a case of Pro Debut. Topps Update, which is something that I'll probably, actually with the rookie class in Pro Debut this year, I probably, will pick up a couple hobby boxes maybe. Topps Chrome, I have no interest. Heritage Miners, that's something that I buy typically at least one case. Stadium Club, I really don't have any interest in. Bowman Draft, it's just the price is close to Paige and Deanie Bean's number up there. And Topps Archives, big fan of Topps Archives, which I've actually here in recent years, I love Topps Archives. Was my favorite product in like 2012 and 13 when I was getting back into the hobby pretty hardcore. And I didn't care about Topps Heritage at all. I loved Archives as opposed to Heritage. Then I loved Heritage. Like when probably 2000, I'm trying to think of the like once it got into the mid to late 60s designs, I loved Heritage and I was getting tired of Archives. Now that Heritage is into the 70s, which I thought I would love because I love the 70s designs. And it's not doing it for me. And I've gone back to liking archives more than heritage. Now, could save this for another day. I think archives does need to shift because we're now seeing all of these designs like all over the place. I think archives should, and I've mentioned this several times, if they did like non-baseball designs, like old football designs, old basketball designs, old non-sports designs, that would be really cool on a baseball product for archives. John says, Victor, the rookie card specialist, is the railroad expert. Seriously, does he work? Does he work for a rail? I don't think I knew that. That's interesting. I wonder if Victor's in here. Let's see. Dan says, I almost got into collecting train cars. I had a train set when I was a little kid. In fact, my cousin Michelle texted me just like a couple months ago. And she's like, remember your train, like just out of the blue. Remember that train set you had? And it's like, yeah, I forgot all about that. And she goes, whatever happened to it? And that was a really good question. And so it was like I think my dad made, it was a big piece of plywood, and he painted it and, put like all the, trees and stuff like that on it. And, like laid the track down, glued it down, or whatever you do. And it was a decent train set. And I remember the first house that I grew up in, I remember having it there. It was a very small house, and it was a pretty large piece of plywood. So it was like up against the wall. And, every once in a while we would get it out. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. But then my dad was building the house that I mostly grew up in. And I don't ever remember it being at the house, the second house I grew up in. And so I mentioned that to my cousin, and I'm like, I don't know. So I asked my mom, and I'm like, whatever happened to that train set? And she's like, well, I think your dad just threw it away because it was, I don't know, like sold the train set at a garage sale or something because it was so big. We just didn't have room for it. And usually I have a pretty good memory of stuff like that, but for some reason it's just like, it just disappeared. Let's see. Grizzy Media Group, what is up? Pumped for the Twitter Spaces at 9 a.m. Eastern with Collects today. I think it's 9 a.m. Central. I hope it's 9 a.m. Central because it's almost 9 a.m. Eastern. So is Ted in here? It is 9 a.m. Central, correct? 9 a.m. Yeah. So hopefully it's 9 a.m. Central time. Let's see. John says cost 5 figures to get a truck to go cross country now. Yeah, probably. Depending on what you're hauling. I haven't been, it's been a year since I've been in it, but I mean, even last year, if we hauled something from San Francisco to New York, it would cost, 10 grand. Loved those hauls. Let's see. Where are we at? Bo, when are you going to post your old scanner? Probably pretty soon. So yeah, the first, when am I going to talk about? Hey, I got to talk about the scanner. We've got to get through the chat. So probably soon. Cooter says we pause for freight, logistics, and economics. You get it all in a bag of chips on Bo's show. George says, let's face it, the world we live in is always going to have something effing stuff up and making stuff more difficult and expensive while many companies hit record profits. As long as I can afford a few crumbs of food, I suppose I'm happy. I'm not optimistic beyond that. Happy Thursday, George. When do the Hallmark Christmas movies start? I think mid-October. If the card industry ran holidays, then Christmas 2022 wouldn't happen until mid-2023. Kyle, good morning. What is up? I think your freight strike analysis is spot on. Probably would have prolonged inflation, but the card hobby doesn't seem to be directly linked to freight. Dan has an Aunt Ruth. Aunt Ruth is hotter than Stacy's mom. I did not have an Aunt. I had a Grandma Ruth. So did my wife. My wife also had a Grandma Ruth. I did not have an Aunt Ruth. I was just trying to pick a name. I miss going to a pumpkin farm festival in the fall on a cool day. Ain't none of them got anything on El Arcani. Let's see. Paige and Deanie Bean says, and all your presents would be redemption cards, Blue Yeti, Propaphone. Let's see, Propaphone. It is plugged in today. Hopefully it's on. It is on. I think it's actually, is this thing on? I think this is actually not a prop today. Let's see. Are redemption cards the equivalent to getting coal? Yes. Terry lived there in 88. Okay, so you were there long before I was hitting up the card shop. Let's see. Mark says, I'm the guy with the notebook. Nope, never opened a hobby box. Haven't even opened a pack in 40 years. Root versus route in the next poll. You know, I use different terms. Sometimes I say route 6. Sometimes I say route 6. Actually, I think I say route more than route. Is it get your kicks on Route 66? So yeah, it's like interchangeable, but I say route more than route. What's up, Brian Wolf in the house? Terry says, I know where you're talking about. I lived right off of 6 before the little bridge. Okay. Cooter says, John, you need to include both as an option because Route 66 is the route we take here in Oklahoma. Let's see. Baseball card curmudgeon. What is up? Boom slang in the house. Max says people actually open wax now. I love Heritage and Ginter and usually do multiple cases per year, but won't open Heritage over $80 a box. I think I went to, I've been buying, and it's been, Heritage was like the only product I was surprised, like during COVID when everything went crazy high, Heritage kind of stood pat. And it was, I think it went up to like maybe $110, $115, which I thought was a good price, I guess, in comparison to the other products. Victor, the rookie card specialist in the house. He is a steward for one of the railroad unions. Victor, I did not know that. I was, but not any longer. Interesting. Cooter says your train set went to live on a farm. It probably did. Collect says, Doe, I think it was scheduled for 9 a.m. Eastern. If you want us to push to 9 Central, we can do that. Yes, let's do that. I'm trying to think. It's 7:47 now. I still have to talk about scanners. So yeah, let's push it. Let's push it back to 9 a.m. Central. Max says it was up to 120 plus, which is absolutely insane. I've done 2+ cases of it since 2012. Let's see. Route is an ambidextrous word. Let's see. Card Hobbyist says, just realized a random Pat McAfee base card I got goes for like $10. I never imagined a punter card would sell for that. I know. I didn't either. His base rookie card from Topps 2015 sells for like $20. I was shocked because I think when I realized that, somebody had mentioned, I don't know if it was either Michael or Dollar Box mentioned kickers and punters surprisingly sell well. And so I was pulling like going through a box of football cards. And I found a Pat McAfee. And I don't think it has like the rookie logo on it. So I'm like, I'm going to look this up. And it happened to be the rookie. And maybe it did. And I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. But looked it up and it's like, whoa, this comps for like $20. And it's sold like, I don't think I sold it at full price. I think I took an offer of 15 maybe. But I was pretty happy with a card that was in a common box. So yes. So Herman wants the link. Let's see. Here is the link to Colex's Twitter feed. There you go. Let's see. You can always tell when Bo is on the pot because the tweets fly. Dookie was a good album around 45. Yeah, Dookie, Green Day. I think that was one of my penny CDs from Columbia House back in the day. 304 Sports Card says you're not selling Pat McAfee the punter. You're selling Pat McAfee the podcast personality. Yes, but he's a punter on the card. So yeah, the reason it sells is because he's, on TV, radio, wrestling, and all that. And he just happened to play football a few years ago. Let's see. Kind of like what are some other Now this is a whole nother tangent. What are some other cards that sell because of their speaking of keep it on wrestling, JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield, has a junk wax era football card. He played in the World League, so in '91, Pro Set did World League, and John Layfield has a World League football card with his awesome mullet. Max drops Brock Lesnar and Aaron Hernandez. Yeah, Brock Lesnar, another good one. Vikings, although he was, I mean, yeah, it is a novelty. Aaron Hernandez, there's this weird thing where people like Ray Caruth, Aaron Hernandez, people collect murderers. It's weird. Hey, you do you if you're into that. Rex Chapman. I need to list more Rex Chapman because I was wondering about that because he's a huge Twitter celebrity. And I was wondering if Rex Chapman cards sell on eBay. So I'm going to have to pull some Rex Chapmans and give it a go. I remember Dookie being big when I was a freshman at NIU in '94. The Rock, Mark Jackson, right? The Menendez brothers cards because of the cameo. Speaking of cameos, the Sam Vincent card from that same set with Michael Jordan wearing the number 12 jersey. You know, that sells for like $5. Okay, let's talk scanners. Terry says I have a set of famous murder cards from the early 90s. So I received a new scanner yesterday, the Fujitsu 8170, and we're gonna do another. So one of the top videos on my channel is my interview chat with Don Caruso from Fujitsu. We're gonna get together again probably next week. And we're going to talk, we're going to just do a follow-up. We're going to talk about Fujitsu scanners. We're going to talk about the 8170 because I plugged it in last night, started using it, and I didn't think it would be as good as advertised. It's like I have the 70, I was using the 7030. That's what got me into Fujitsu. I found Fujitsu. I think I just Googled scanners for baseball cards, and it brought up like Chronazio, and Chronazio had a page of their scanners that use with their software, and I'm like, cool. So I looked into it, and I think before I even bought one, I talked about it here on one of the Hobby Evolution episodes. Frank Lubatti, he's on Twitter, Frank the Tanks Cards. He went ahead and bought one, and he sent me, once he started using it, he sent me a video, and he's like, this is amazing. And this was right before I went full-time selling cards last September, October. The first day that I went full-time selling cards, I was taking photos on my phone, uploading them to Image Shack, copying and pasting one by one into my file exchange spreadsheet. And within the first hour, I realized there's no way I can scale up doing this. And I went to Amazon and I bought the Fujitsu 7030, and it was a game changer. And then Andrew mentioned, hey, basically reverse engineer what I was doing with Image Shack because I was copying and pasting. It's like upload the pictures into File Exchange and then copy and paste the links, because you can do a bulk copy and paste and then type in the cards instead of doing the pictures first, or instead of doing the listings first and then copying and pasting, hunting and pecking, looking for the listing and where to copy and paste the link. Reverse engineer it. Game changer. And the 7030, it's a great feed scanner printer. And if you want to scale, I would say if you want to scale up and you want to do it, a little cheaper, find a refurbished model. I'll probably be selling my 7030 here soon. I'll throw it on my eBay store at a good discount. And just a game changer. I also use the Scan Snap, which is an overhead, and I think somebody mentioned it. Terry mentioned it in here, which is great for like slabs And Chrome cards, if you don't want to put Chrome cards in a feed scanner, you can use the Scan Snap SV600, and that's great. And I've used that on occasion. But I'm like, I kept hearing about this 8170 from Fujitsu, and I got it in the mail yesterday, plugged it in. So I'm going to get to the chat real quick before I go in and talk about the 8170. In my first, and again, I've only ran 100 cards. I did a couple like single cards just to get some of the settings down, and then I did a 100 card scan. So John says Bo is filming scanner commercials airing in Japan. It's like going back to my Simpsons reference early in the show, Mr. Sparkle. I love when I'm 15 minutes behind, but watching the chat, and it allows me to try to guess what you are talking about. I see Dookie, Mark Jackson, Aaron Hernandez. Could be a lot. Love it. 304 says it's advertised as being able to scan penny sleeves, but they still wrinkle up in my 8170. So here's this may be a trick. Scan them sideways. So scan them here. I've got. So I don't know how you're scanning them, 304, but don't feed them in this way. Feed them in this way. Feed them in sideways. And that should prevent the wrinkling. So if you're already doing that this way, then I don't know. But if you're scanning them vertically, scan them horizontally. Let's see. Terry says I have the 7160 and the Overhead 7 SV600. They are great scanners. Absolutely 100% agree. Fall Creek says there is a baseball card with Corey Haim in the outfield crowd too. Let's see. Collect says, are you getting good scans with the SV600? Any settings advice? John says the old scanner should be turned into a relic card. Okay, so I'm going to address Brian's comment here. He says, cropping is not great. Spend a lot of time fixing on the SV600. This is also an issue I had with the 7030. Now, I haven't used the overhead scan snap as certainly not as much. So I just haven't been, using that. In terms of the 80, this is the one thing that I like the most outside of this. Well, I guess it's the second most important thing for me. The speed is just awesome with the 8170. It's so much faster. And I think I was on the Collect's website looking at their scanner page, and I think they advertised the Fujitsu 7030 is scanning 1,500 cards per hour, while the 8170 does 6,000 cards per hour. So 4 times faster. What I like, though, is Brian brings up cropping. You can set the margins. You might be able to on the on the 7030 and the SV600. I haven't been able to figure that out. But with the 8170, I figured it out in like no time. You just set the margins. So I set it to like 2 millimeters or something, and it sets a nice black border, which is, I know some people say you should use white background for scans and pictures on eBay. But most cards have white borders, and white on white is not good. And I actually receive, not it's not common, but I've received multiple messages saying, hey, can you get a better picture of this card because the white on white. So it's got a black, and I'm sure you can change it, but the default was black, and which it really pops on most cards, unless it's like maybe 1971 tops. Although 71, that black border is probably a little faded after 50 years. So that's what I really like about the 8170. It was really easy to get that setting to where you've got a background, and I didn't have any cropping issues with that. And I haven't had any cropping issues with the 7030 either. But the overhead scan snap 600, there has been some, it can be kind of glitchy, especially if you're doing multiple cards, because you lay down basically a giant mouse pad, and then the overhead scanner just kind of, and sometimes it doesn't crop accurately. So I do agree with that. The 8170 is a feed scanner as opposed to the overhead. So I don't know if that helps at all. But that's something that I noticed that I did want to address, that you can set those margins rather easily on the 8170, where it's a little more difficult. And I never did figure it out, but you know how techie I am, not at all. So that shouldn't come as a surprise. Card Hobbyist says Image Shack stores them in the same order as how I upload them, so that helps. Mine wasn't. It was, and I know somebody else mentioned that mine wasn't. Now, when I scan, Card Dealer Pro does. But for whatever reason, when I was copying and pasting from my folder, because I have a set folder it saves into, and then I bulk copy and paste, say that let's just use 28 because that fits on one page on Image Shack. When I copy and pasted that over, it wasn't in the order I scanned. And so that's why I had to reverse engineer it. But with Card Dealer Pro, it does. So like which is awesome because it saves me time. I would spend roughly a minute getting my cards organized, sorted in the correct order, so I could, go down the list 1 through 28. With Card Dealer Pro, as I copy and pasted and uploaded into their system, it goes in order. And I haven't had any issues with that. So I'm not sure why. And I know other people said the same as Card Hobbyist, where Image Shack stored them in the same order they were scanned. I wasn't having that luck. They were all out of order for me. The actual taking photos is my bottleneck since I don't have a scanner. I mean, if you're only listing a few cards here and there, I don't think a scanner is necessary. But I think if you want to scan volume and you want to scale up, it's a necessity. And if you're especially low dollar cards, I think it's an absolute necessity. Card Hobby says outside of a flatbed, that is. I don't like flatbed scanners because I chew my fingernails. So it's hard for me. And I mean, you really don't. Do you want to pick a raw card up with your fingernails anyway? So I don't like, and I guess if they're sleeved, but I like scanning cards raw because I don't want to pick up the imperfections on the plastic. So the flatbed scanner, I don't like flatbed scanners. And it's not that it's like the bulk mailing labels. I've never tried it, but from watching people's videos, it's like, that's not for me. But with the flatbed scanners, I've actually tried on multiple occasions through the years, and I just don't like flatbed scanners. Cooter says, with supply chain issues, it might be good to keep a backup scanner. That is a good idea. Let's see, where are we at? Brian Myers says, I have the 7160 and I get red lines on Chrome cards. Does this work better? I can't answer that directly because I don't think I've scanned Chrome cards. I will say my 7030, I would not get red lines on Chrome cards. Now, there were some cards just based on the scanner that it would scan, like rainbow foils especially. It would come off looking like, well, if this is a rainbow foil or if this is like the blue parallel. So I guess I can't answer that because I don't think I've ever experienced, and I do Topps and Bowman Chrome I did in my 7030, and I didn't have any issues, and especially with red lines. Now, if you have are you getting red lines in other cards, like just regular base cards? Because every once in a while I would get a streak on my scans, and it was because there was like maybe dust. So clean it every once in a while. But if you're only getting red lines on Chrome cards, I'm not sure what that would be. And I've never used the 7160. So I just can't answer that. Brian says, any scanner good with card savers? I have not. Collects answers it. Thank you. So Ted says 8170 is great with card savers. I have not tried that yet, but I do know that they can. Let's see. 304 says perfect. Great tip. And I think he's talking about the sleeving horizontally as opposed to vertically. Stacks and Packs says doesn't work sideways either. Still wrinkles. Interesting. I'm gonna give that a whirl later today and see how it goes on my end, because somebody and I apologize for not remembering the name, but somebody has commented in the past about penny sleeves going sideways, and it works for them. Let's see. Brian says, I saw someone with cropped card savers on eBay, was wondering. Terry says, when using the SV600, I put the card on a colored background just a little bigger than the card. That's a good way to do it. Victor says, settings advice for cards definitely would be helpful. Maybe when you bring in Fujitsu guy for the interview. I purchased the 7160 4 months ago. Very nice. Yes. So we'll probably do a live. We'll probably do a YouTube live. And I think next week. So if you can make it, and once I get we get squared away, I want to give the scanner a few more run throughs just to get it down. So I can talk to Don and we can come up with a game plan on what topics to talk about. But that is good advice regarding settings. Collect says some of the things we've heard from Fujitsu on getting better scans with the SV600. Use the latest ScanSnap software. Do not check or uncheck the red eye removable function if it was enabled. Interesting. Also select the low compression rate. Don't select correct skewed text function. Set card without tilting as much as possible. Interesting. That's great tips. Card Hobbyist says, I use a Post-it note to pick up cards if I use the flap. That's a good trick. Never thought of that. That is a great trick. Let's see. Brian says, only red lines on chrome or foils. Interesting. That is interesting. I'm not sure what would be causing that. Stacks and Packs says, do you feed the chrome cards raw? Yes. And they are low dollar cards. Now, if it's a $10 and up chrome card, no, I don't. But if it's going to go in my eBay store for $150, $250, something like that, I'll feed them in raw. I haven't had any scratching. Most chrome cards have scratching anyway. Especially now, I've noticed in the last year, or maybe even 2 years, Bowman Chrome and other chrome cards have terrible print lines and scratches. But I haven't, from the scanner, I haven't had any issues with any scratching or anything like that, damage, etc. Andrew, good morning to you. Terry says, I would get those red lines sometimes, and a quick wipe down of the scanner lens fixes it. Okay. So that was my first thought, was maybe there's something inside the scanner that's causing that. Stacks and Packs says, I was wondering maybe if you buy the premium ones, maybe instead of the thin ones. So that could be. I'm like, I would assume if you're using, and I'll have to try with these, and these are just the penny sleeves I'm using are, and again, I haven't tried this yet, so I don't know. But I do know if I would scan them this way in my 70-30, I would get those wrinkles. I will be honest and say I never did try it this way, and I haven't tried it yet in the 8170, which I will today, just so I can come back tomorrow and say, hey, it worked, or hey, it didn't work. But these penny sleeves I use are just the standard cheap Columbia Hobby cardboard gold. But they're decent fit. They're not like oversized or anything. They've got a good fit. They're not like the perfect fit, but they're a good fit. Not perfect, but good. Where's Tyler go? Tyler goes over there. Let's see. Let's see. Collex is going to try that with a colored background. Number 2, select photo profile for scanning the trading card, because you will be able to select the amount automatic correction feature. Henry says, so tired. Isn't going to be better to use your phone to take pics? Not at all. So much slower. Scanning for TCDB with the old printer was a pain in the. Once you get this, it's, oh my gosh, it's scanning with your phone. Takes so much time. You can scan 6,000 cards in an hour using the 8170. Using your phone, it's probably in the hundreds, in the low hundreds. Let's see. Stacks and Pack says, yeah, I did them raw and it seemed fine. I'm still just messing with a lot of it before actually going into listing. And that's good. Like, play around with it, practice, get the settings down before actually putting it to use. Always a great idea. Brian says, I've cleaned it trying to get rid of them, but no luck. Well, dang, that sucks. I wonder if it's the actual scanner. I don't know. I don't know what that could be. Stacks and Pack says, okay, I tried BCW and Ultra Pro. Maybe I'll try again. Brian Wolf, thank you to Collects. And don't forget, Twitter Spaces begins 9 a.m. Central. So in about 50 minutes, we'll be on Twitter, on the Collects channel, Twitter Spaces, talking Card Dealer Pro. Let's see. Victor says, I still have to crop scans afterwards. Is there a setting for auto crop? And Victor said you're using the 7160. Man, I don't know on the 7160. I don't think there is on the. I have the 7030, and I couldn't figure out how to expand the scannable area. But with the 8170, it was like just go into settings and set scannable area, and you can do like an overscan, which didn't work. That was the first option I clicked. And then it's like, okay, I'll try this. And it's like, I'll go 2 millimeters. And it was like perfect. I lucked into that. That was dumb luck on my part. And it was super easy. 7160 I've never used, so I don't know. And I will say the 8170 scanner software is different than the 7030. And I don't know if the 7160 uses the same as the 7030 or if it has its own separate scanning software. So unfortunately, I cannot answer that. Let's see. Stacks and Packs says the 8170 is a beast. It will auto crop for you. And then, yeah, you can also, it auto crops for you. And then you can add, like I said, 2 millimeters, and it was perfect. Card Hobbyist says, my problem with auto crop on the flatbed is it doesn't leave a margin to show edges and corners. So that's what I'm talking about with the cropping. The auto crop on the scanners I've used, the 7030 and now the 8170, it was also, it was too good. It was cropping too good, so you couldn't really get a great idea of the actual edges, the actual corners. But by adding that 2 millimeters to the setting, it adds that black background, and it was perfect. And so I don't think I've actually listed, and damn, I wish I could, because it's on my computer. And you're talking about scanners, and you're not even showing it off because it's upstairs in my listing office. But I do, once I get it, once I get a good go at it, I want to show what it does, and I can talk about the cropping. Brian says he wants to go take a crop. Let's see. So that's in Card Hobbyist. That's what I like the most about the 8170 is, along with the speed, is that cropping option, which was just super easy to figure out. Terry says, I use the Fujitsu software and just have it on auto size and everything is fine. Paige and DD Bean says, are virtual 25-cent boxes and dollar boxes a thing yet? Is it Card Hobbyist? Do you do sales on your YouTube channel? I saw something pop up last night, and I'm like, oh, that's, and I've seen it before. It was somebody that's in this chat, and I think it was Card Hobbyist. And they had like a YouTube sale. If it wasn't, I apologize. Let's see. Brian says, oh, we talked about that. Andrew says, how do you add the black background in the settings? I have the 7160. I don't know. Because I think the 7160 software is different. This is the 8170, and all I can tell you is the 8170 uses different settings software than the 7030, and I'm assuming 7160 is also different. So unfortunately, I can't answer that. You crop, Daniel? Why are you cropping? How do you stop it from crinkling up when scanning in penny sleeves? So the advice I was given was scan them sideways. because they will crinkle, and it kind of makes sense because you have the opening up here. But even if you do here, if it goes down, and even if just the like just the slightest, it's gonna push the card up because you're feeding it down this way, and there might be some friction or whatever, and it just causes that just little bit, and it may crinkle the whole sleeve, and it could look at that. But it doesn't really, I guess it still does a little bit. But do this. Try it. I haven't personally, but I've heard from people that say this does work as opposed to this. Because I can attest, if you scan this way, you're going to get crinkles. But I've been told if you scan this way, it helps. Let's see. Get Elon on the horn. Let's see. Card Hobbyist says, I do sales live on YouTube. It's more of a hangout than me making money. I'm goofing off more than anything. That's awesome. So it was your channel that I saw. Next time I see that, I'll have to jump on, and I think, I don't even know why it just popped up. I think we were watching a show. We finished Devil in Ohio last night from Netflix. Let's see. Victor says, like Apple, there should be updates that give most newer models the same technology. Now my 4-month-old 7160 is outdated. Yeah, I agree. That does stink. Yeah. So that's what I had. Good scanner talk. And again, we can get a lot of answers that I couldn't handle. I will have Don Caruso on from Fujitsu, and we'll get those answers straight from the horse's mouth. Brian says, so jealous of social media sellers, so old, hard to adapt. I'm not, some do it and have great success. Others don't. I love eBay, and I, don't do social media sales. I just leave it to eBay. Philip says, I just got the 8170 a few weeks ago and haven't really played around with it much other than maybe 30 to 40 minutes when I first set it up. You'll love it. It is awesome. Let's see. I wandered into his live stream last night and it was pretty fun. Very cool. Henry says, yep, I have inventory and need to get rid of it somehow. Absolutely. Philip asks, what do you think of Chronazio? To be honest, I think it's clunky, and I know some people here in the chat use it and love it. It never worked for me. And it's just, one of those things that I tried it numerous times, going back a couple years. I think my first foray into Chronazio was, like 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago. And it was clunky. I never did try the AI that they use. I didn't try the AI they use. I think I downloaded their thing, and it just wasn't easy. So what's the alternative? Find out at 9 a.m. Central on Collect's Twitter Spaces. Card Dealer Pro, love it. There are some issues right now with their AI. But up until last Thursday, man, I was flying through, and if you've watched this channel, you know how untechnical I am. And it was super easy to set up. You can do a trial, which you can like click and do a trial. You don't have to email somebody. You don't have to wait for an answer. You don't have to beg and plead. Please give me a trial. You just click trial version. Boom, you're there. I was playing around with it. It's like, you know what? I want to learn more. I scheduled. You can click right on the bottom of their website, carddealerpro.com. You can click and set up. And the next day I was on Zoom with Ted, who, by the way, is running the Collects account here in the chat. and it was super easy. And I love it. So I don't love the issues, as Andrew mentioned. Andrew says, have you experienced any issues with card dealer? Yes, for the last week, there's been a lot of AI issues. They are working on it. They're going to, so Collects and Card Dealer Pro, we're doing a Twitter Spaces. I'm not sure if you were here earlier. On Collects, on their Twitter Spaces, 9 a.m. Central, so in about 40 minutes, we're going to be talking about Card Dealer Pro. Let's see. Brian says Carnazio milks the money. Everything was an upcharge. Yes, and that's another thing that I don't like. Card Dealer Pro, you get whatever you pay for. Okay, so there's an answer to Andrew. It's not an issue with the AI. It's something else. They're on it. Okay. And I'm sure they can explain more in the Twitter space this morning. So Henry's looking for the Brandon Cooks to 9.99. Brandon Cooks. Let's see. Terry says Card Dealer Pro, basically a file exchange front end with AI, while Carnazio is a complete card eBay manager, hence the higher cost. Yeah, I know Carnazio has like a direct relationship with eBay. I don't like somebody who alluded to the upcharges. Brian says, yeah, there's a lot of upcharges, which I don't like. And a lot of what Carnazio did, I can do on my own with file exchange. And avoid those costs. Basically what I was looking for was something to turbo boost my listing power. And that next step was AI, because I can turbo boost with file exchange, and I didn't need a manager like Carnazio. Some that works for some people, and that's okay. I know a lot of people use Carnazio and they like Carnazio. It wasn't for me. I'm not crapping on it. It's not something that worked for me. But that's why I went with Card Dealer. That's why I used Card Dealer Pro, started using Card Dealer Pro, because I needed something with the AI that boom could supercharge. I think that's what they supercharge, turbo boost my listing power. And it did. Let's see. So, that's what I had for today. I'm going to go get another cup of coffee, and don't forget, Twitter Spaces, 40 minutes away, 9 a.m. Central. We're going to talk Card Dealer Pro. So what a perfect lead into the Twitter Spaces. We're going to talk about Card Dealer Pro and all of the awesomeness that it has. We will talk more scanners next week. It'll be a separate video with Don from Fujitsu. We'll talk about the 8170. We can talk about the settings. So to Victor and the others that had those questions, I apologize. I couldn't answer them. I'm sure Don can. So we'll talk about that next week. Haven't scheduled it yet, but I think we're going to aim for next week. And we'll try to do a live. So you can ask those questions to Don. Any other questions you have, maybe the red lines, we can address that and see if he has any answers to those. So looking forward to that. Again, Twitter Spaces on Collects. The link is right there in the chat. So that's coming up at 9 a.m. Central here in about 40 minutes, a little less than 40 minutes. So with that, I bid you adieu for now. You can jump on with me in 40 minutes on the Twitter space. We're talking Card Dealer Pro today. Have a wonderful Thursday. We're back at it tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Central for Hobby Evolution. We'll talk to you at 9 a.m.